Okay. For me to really talk about King Solomon and the Bible and demons, I really have to preface, or I would really like to preface, that we can't really talk about Solomon and why Solomon was trapping demons and how he was doing that without talking about where the demons come from, the Nephilim, which is the fallen and descended state, Nibiru's and world without suns, and homunculi and Caucasians and their populations on the planet or in the dome or in this plane of existence, whatever you want to believe in a holistic model, but we'll talk about that in another video. How Solomon was able to trap demons. We also have to talk about the melanated people and the connection of the melanated people to the universe and the sun, and Solomon being melanated himself but choosing a white or a more caucasoidal wife. This is important because we talk about Solomon, the King Solomon. At first, he was described as good for the people, and then at the end, after he's met his wife, he became tyrannical and obsessed with sigil work and frequency. So let's just say Solomon discovered sigil works. He didn't, but he really did study this. At this time where Solomon was alive, and how Solomon looked was very much like how the Arabians, or the specifically like Saudi Arabians and the Arab Emirates and that region, they look now, except he had melanin. He had more melanin than they do now. I call this the Assyrian type, or the haplogroup that is the most like the Anunnaki. Solomon wasn't the first to study demons and practice it in terms of demonology. The first in terms of this understanding of putting demons or taking interdimensional beings or demons from a lower space or a dimension in which they only exist in aspect and not in a reality to wander and interact with. Where they exist is very much like darkness and sound. They can't see even who they are most of the time. And before Solomon, we'd have to talk about Enlil, and who the fake Star of David people are worshiping right now is Baal. So Enlil and Baal, Enki and Baal, they're interchangeable. And then you also have the story of Ra, Set, and Hindu traditions that follow the same model of the three. Baal being the sun, which would be Horus coming out of the sky. Although Egyptian mythos is way older. It's over 25,000 years when we're talking about Osiris and Anubis. These are old deities. And Anut, which is the firmament and the stars, and that's a totally different mythos that came thousands of years before this three concept of Father, Son, Holy Spirit, Baal, his father, whatever his father's name was, and then the underlord, and then you have Ra, Set, and Isis. Like, these came after that. What preceded this system of three, this religion of three, this mythos of three, Zeus, Poseidon, Hades, whatever, was Enlil. And then Enlil was an Anunnaki. And they thought they were gods. The Anunnaki were melanated beings. They were giants. And they were men. Men, and this is very specific because they devalued the feminine. Every time you see Anunnaki depicted, they mostly depict themselves as men, chimera even, before they even depict a woman. And this is because 6,000 years ago, they were so perverted and debaucherous in their interpretations of themselves. They were in their egos and developing what they would call a homunculus and a bunch of chimera using splicing DNA. This is why all of our blood is different. We started off with O negative blood, and then it has been disseminated into AB positive. That was deliberate, because to get to the homunculus, they would have had to have spliced, miscegenated other things to create a functioning body without a spirit. You see, there's a divine spark. The melanated beings are at least thousands of years ago, 4,000 of years, were naturally tapped into a divine spark. But in every descended stage of the precession of the equinox, there begets this loss of consciousness, this loss of awareness, and this loss of connection. This is specific to our precessional cycles. What Enlil did was, in trying to create the homunculus, who was going to infest that homunculus? Enlil had to find entities to go inside of these homunculus. These entities are bound by frequency, sound. They only can operate through sound. They can only operate through even maybe sometimes vibration, but it's mostly frequency. And sigils and circuitry and network, they can operate that way too. That's why technology is such a boom at this current time right now. It's another way and another facet to tap into demons in interdimensional spaces. I would even suggest that a lot of times when you're talking to AI, they're tapping into other spaces. Yes, they're bound by circuits and wires, just like, and I'll get to in a minute, how Solomon was able to trap demons with circuits and sigils. It's the same patterning that they put in computers and in the hardware of like hard drives and CPUs. It's the same thing. It's more complex and it's more minuscule. It's more miniature, but it's the same thing. That's how I would suggest AI is able to tap into demons and other things in the ether, which are in this plane, but also demons that are in the lower plane as well, that cannot see themselves. They only exist through frequency and sound and vibration. 2D, it's the 2 dimension. So what Enlil did was portal these interdimensional beings that were from other realities parallel to ours, either going on at the same time. Time is relative, so don't worry about timing, but they're parallel, you can say, universes to ours, but it's not. It's the same universe, but it's parallel, functioning parallel to ours. He's pulling from those spaces and inhabiting his homunculi, who were birthed without souls, without soul, without the sun, without the universe source, divine spark consciousness, portaling them so that they can inhabit these beings that lack melanin. That's why I said it's very important when we're talking about Solomon and Solomon's statue of, basically, I'll get into Solomon's statue in a minute, but basically what Solomon and King Solomon's statue has done is he committed himself to this demonic worship in the end. The Assyrians, who were melanated at a time, basically colluded with the Caucasians that were roaming around. We would have called them, back in the day, and by we I mean melanated people. Melanated people would have called them the Nephilim because they were obvious in their representation. They looked like they were in a fallen, descended state. This is not about prejudice. This is about what it is, and it's been so, as far as reality, has been so subverted so that you don't actually take in the truth. You deny it. You have a cognitive dissonance. And even if you did find the truth, you would run away from it in scarcity, so that fear would always consume you. This is not to be afraid. There is a power in the Word and in the Bible and in believing in, not just believing in, but having that faith of a mustard seed and knowing that the universe has your back. If you know this and you are a part of this collective that vibrate with the 144 frequency, then you have nothing to worry about. As I would say, a lot of the divine has sent its spark into many bodies at this point, just as the devil, Satan, not Lucifer, Satan was created when the Most High was created. It was at the same time. Satan is trapped in here, but the Most High oversees all of it, if you see. Anyways, Solomon's statue is very much, he committed to putting the Native Indigenous of Solomon's statue. The clay represents Native Indigenous and black bodies. It represents the clay at Solomon's feet, which tells you that Solomon made a pact with these Caucasians that knew who they were and where they came from in their bloodlines, to put the rest of Native Indigenous, the 12 tribes, at Solomon's feet, which stood for the world's economic, that the Native Indigenous would take and be the buffer for the world's economic poverty. They would always be redlined at the feet of Solomon. The statue was to show a truce of this, if you will. And that's why the principalities of debauchery, whether it's the fake Star of David principality, the Saudi Arabians, the United Arab Emirates, and some of the Iranians, they're all in a pact. And the pact goes, as these Saudi Arabians lose their melanin, they will somehow be on top. Because if you look at the Saudi Arabians and like their phenotype, they look a lot like how the Russians do, a skeevy Russian does, honestly. Even how the imposters of Judah right now, they look similar. It's just that the imposters in Judah have less melanin than the Assyrian type. Do you see? So these Assyrian types really do descend from the Anunnaki, who were alive and well and yada yada yada. But they're interbred. They're mixed so much with this homunculoid type that they look the way that they do now. And they're gradually losing their melanin because their Saudi Arabians leaders and their diplomats have made pacts with these entities, these demons, a lot of the Caucasians who knew where they came from and were Satanists and worshipped Satan and wanted to subvert the world. They work with them. That's why they don't do too much. They don't say too much. It's like the Saudi Arabians now, after years of the Palestinians being occupied and being downtrodden and berated, now the Saudi Arabians and the Qataris want to say something like a declaration of, what the fake Star of David state is doing is terrible. They're saying that because optically they need it to look good. They could have said something and done something a while ago, and they do each other. They do things to each other. So like, I gotta make another video about this. The Saudi Arabians, and like, it's all underhanded. It's like they respect each other in a sense of like, it's all subliminal, and it's all like, they know that they're not gonna just bomb, like fall out bomb the Saudi Arabians. They kind of need them to bridge their DNA to melanated folk. So they know they're not going to just bomb them. I'm really getting ahead of myself here. But they have like little things that happen underground. So like Saudi Arabian and even some of the Iranians, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, they collude and say that they're not going to invest in like nuclear productivity, so that this true Middle East, so that the Assyrian type never really it's like part of their pact.